A Long Walk to Water, Chapter 7, Southern Sudan, 2008. Naya sat on the floor. She reached out and took her little sister's hand. Akira didn't seem to notice. She lay curled on her side, hardly moving, silent except for an occasional whimper. Her silence frightened Naya. Only 2 days earlier, Akira had complained noisily at length about pains in her stomach. Naya had been annoyed by all the whining. Now she felt guilty, for she could see that her sister no longer had enough strength to complain. Naya knew how many people suffered from the same illness. First cramps and stomach ache, then diarrhea. Sometimes fever too. Most of the adults and other older children who fell ill recovered at least enough to work again, although they might continue to suffer on and off for years. The elderly for the elderly and for small children, the illness can be dangerous. Unable to hold anything in their systems, many of them starved to death, even with the food right in front of them. Naya's uncle, the chief of their village, knew of a medical clinic a few days' walk away. He told Naya's family that if they could take Akira there, doctors would give her medicine to help her get better. But a trip like that would be very difficult for Akira. Should she stay at the camp, or at least rest so she might heal on her own? Or should they begin the long, hard walk and hope they reached help in time? Southern Sudan, 1985. The walking began again. Salva shook with terror, inside and out. He clung like a baby. He clung to Uncle like a baby or a little boy hanging onto his hand or shirt tail when he could, never letting Uncle get farther than an arm's length away. He looked around constantly. Every movement in the grass was a lion stalking. Every stillness a lion was waiting to spring. Muriel was gone, vanished into the night. He would never have wandered away from the group on his own. His disappearance could only mean one thing. Lion. A lion had been hungry enough to approach the group as they slept. A few men had begun keeping watch, but in the dark of the night, with the wind rippling through the long grass, the lion could easily have crept up without being seen. It sought out prey that was small and motionless, Muriel sleeping. And it had taken him away, leaving only a few splotches of blood near the path. If it hadn't been for Uncle, Salva might have gone crazy with fear. Uncle spoke to him all the morning in a steady, low voice. Salva, I have a gun. I will shoot any lion that comes near. Salva, I will stay awake tonight and keep watch. Salva, we will soon be out of lion country. Everything will be all right. Listening to Uncle hurrying to stay close to him, Salva was able to make his feet move despite a cold terror throughout his whole body. But nothing was all right. He had lost his family, and now he had lost his friend as well. No one had heard any screaming in the night. Salva hoped with all his heart that the lion had killed Muriel instantly, but his friend hadn't had time to feel or fear pain. The landscape grew greener. The air smelled of water. The Nile, Uncle said. We will soon come to the Nile River and cross to the other side. The Nile, the longest river in the world, and the mother of all life in Sudan. Uncle explained that they would come to the river at one of its broadest stretches. It would not even look like a river, it would look like a big lake. We will spend time crossing to the other side. What is on the other side? Salva whispered, fearful. Desert, Uncle answered. And after that, Ethiopia. Salva's eyes filled with tears. Muriel had been right about Ethiopia. How I wish he were here so I could tell him I was wrong. Salva stood on the bank of the Nile. Here, as Uncle had said, the river formed a big lake. The group had crossed the Nile in boats, Uncle said. It would take a whole day to reach the islands in the middle of the lake, and another day to get to the far shore. Salva frowned. He saw no boats anywhere. Uncle smiled at Salva's puzzled expression. What, you didn't bring your own boat, he said? Then I hope you were a good swimmer. Salva lowered his head. He knew that Uncle was teasing, but he felt so tired of worrying about his family, tired of thinking about poor Mariel, tired of walking and not knowing where they were going. The least Uncle could do was tell him the truth about the boats. Uncle put his arm around Salva's shoulders. You see, we have a lot of work to do. Salva staggered forward with yet another enormous load of reeds in his arms. Everyone was busy. Some people were cutting down the tall papyrus grass by the water's edge. Others, like Salva, gathered up and cut stalks and took them out to the boat builders. Among the group, there were a few people whose home villages had been near rivers and lakes. They knew how to tie reeds together and weave them cleverly to form shallow canoes. Everyone worked quickly, even though there was no way of knowing whether they had to hurry or not, no way of knowing how near the water was. The fighting could be miles away, or a plane carrying bombs could fly overhead in any moment. It was hard work running back and forth between those cutting and those weaving. But Salva found that the work was helping him feel a little better. He was too busy to worry much. Doing something, even carrying big awkward piles of slippery reeds, is better than doing nothing. Every time Salva delivered a big load of reeds, he would pause for a few moments to admire the skills of the boat workers. The long reeds were laid out in neat bunches. Each bunch would be tied together tightly. Then a bunch of reeds was pulled around the part in the middle to form the hollow, and the two sides were tied all along their length to make a classic boat shape. More layers of reeds were added and tried to make the bottom of the boat. Salva watched, fascinated, as little by little the curve of a prow and low sides grew from a pile of reeds. It took 2 full days for the group to build enough canoes. Each canoe wasn't tested. A few did not float well and had to be mixed. Then more reeds were tied together from paddles. At last, everything was ready. Salva got into a canoe between Uncle and another man. He gripped the sides of the boat tightly as it floated out into the Nile.